Welcome to the third episode of All for the Lombardi. Today is September 21st, 2017. I am Dustin.
And I am Nathan.
And this is the weekly podcast all about the NFL.
Another interesting week in the NFL, and I'm ready to discuss it.
Yes, very much so. So let's get on to our first games. The Chiefs and the Eagles. This is
your game. You can discuss it.
Yeah, and I have a lot. I took actually very good notes on this one. So I broke up my thoughts by quarter, and I won't give them all, but I will say certain things from these notes. Like after the first quarter, I really wanted that Chiefs defense to step up. You may have seen Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith. They started off with good first drives, but we did stop them to the field goal on the first possession, which was definitely a good thing. Though, still, on the Eagles' first possession, that's not something to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Smith, I think he had a good game. He had a couple of moments where he eluded really good blitz plays that would have been definite sacks, and he eluded it and threw it for the touchdown, or almost threw it for the touchdown.
Good enough to keep #bench Alex Smith at bay?
Yes.
Really? That's interesting now.
Yeah.
That's interesting now.
And there were also places where he would save the field position for an eventual punt in that situation. And the Eagles, after quarter one, they had some injuries. They had 2 injuries they suffered right there in the first quarter. I can't remember who, but this would be a plot line for the Eagles a good bit throughout that game. They lost not Ronald Darby, he's already out, but they lost a couple of big guys there and that. And then I'm going to have an interesting feature at the end of this game. I'm going to have best players of the game and a worst player of the game. So I'll just tease that right now for you. Terrence Mitchell needs to really pay attention now. When he tried to intercept a pass, he let it tip into Zach Ertz's hands, and Zach Ertz then got the touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. He either got the touchdown or he was pretty darn right close. He did not get the touchdown, but he was pretty darn close to the touchdown. So that definitely was not a good thing we saw from him. My players of the half, after the first half, all 3 defensive players, they were D4, Justin Houston, and Chris Jones. And I would like to give my player of the game award to Chris Jones. Here is how he did. 1 interception, 3 sacks, 4 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles. He killed that game. The player of the game, and that was actually his first career interception right there. And if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you know this is his second or third year, so he's been around a little bit. And he got that first career interception.
Never forget your first one, will you? Never will. I actually have a question real quick. So, before we talk a little bit more about the game, what do you think of Kelsey getting hit with penalties again?
I'll reserve judgment on that. I mean, he had a good game.
If you didn't see, if you don't know, the Eagles' catchphrase is "Fly, Eagles, fly." And after a big play, he started flapping his wings and cost you 15 yards. So
yeah, but
I'd give some context.
He got a worse penalty too in there. He got a couple of even worse penalties. You know, they were saying on the game called Kevin Burkhardt, Charles Davis, that since Kelsey I don't want to say he made it more okay, but he made it more manageable afterwards, because he actually did end up doing some good things after that point. In fact, he was 8 for 103 yards with a touchdown.
I'm on our fantasy team, so thanks, Kelsey. If I can thank you for anything, it's that.
And I will go ahead and do my worst player of the game here. Terrence Mitchell. Only 4 tackles in the game, and you know what I already told you about the one moment. In fact, when that happened, I kind of just decided right there, okay, he's going to be at least my worst player of the half, if not worst player of the game. And one more guy I'll go ahead and shout out to while I'm sitting here. Akeem Hunt, the he had a 40-yard kick return for Kansas City. It was only 1 return, but he did very well in it. And it was his first return. So maybe we'll see him start to come to prominence over the next few weeks of the NFL season.
You might have a pair of Hunts on the loose. It'd be interesting. All right, so I guess we're unfortunately getting into Bears and Buccaneers. Okay, that was one of the most. I thought last week was frustrating. Just nothing went right in this game between the Bears and the Buccaneers. The final score was 29-7, and those 7 points were pure garbage time points. And well, to go off yours, if I can give my worst player of the game, it'd easily be Mike Glennon. I saw one of my Bears people that I follow on Twitter made a great point. He said, when Glennon doesn't turn the ball over, we lose by 3. When Glennon does turn the ball over, we lose by 22. So, I don't know, maybe a storyline to keep looking at throughout the season. See Glennon's turnovers and how they affect games, because he did throw a pick 6 after all. But nothing went right that game. Literally nothing. Jordan Howard was basically non-existent in that game. Terry Cohen was virtually non-existent. It was just not a good game for the running. It was just not a good day for the running game.
I do have one little thing about. He said that touchdown was in garbage time. Now here's just how in garbage time that play was. 1:43 left in the game. 1:43 left in the game.
Yep.
Talk about garbage time. I mean, yeah, you'll hear the garbage time at the beginning of the fourth quarter if you're seeing a blowout, but
that's literally garbage time.
Yes. Quite literally.
But anyways,
time.
Jordan Howard had 9 rushes for 7 yards, and Tariq Cohen had 7 rushes for 13 yards. So that should tell you how the running game went. And actually, Jordan Howard left the stadium in a sling, which was quite concerning. But I have actually just learned that he was at least limited in practice yesterday. You might say, oh, why are you happy about him being limited? Because I was thinking this is going to be like a season-ending injury, as if the Bears already haven't had enough of those. And real quick, I'll commend the defense real quick. I'm surprised it wasn't more than 29 points because Glennon turned the ball over 3 times. He threw 2 interceptions, including the pick 6. And then he fumbled, and I'm surprised we even held them to that many points. So, those are my frustrated thoughts about the Bears game. I think we're officially on Mitchell Trubisky watch. At least I hope.
Yeah, that will be a very interesting storyline to see there in Chicago as the season continues on. The Saints and the Patriots game, man. I mean, I thought it could potentially be a blowout, but at least the New Orleans Saints actually did do kind of well.
At least they put up points. At least they tried.
And Brady, he was actually the top passing leader in the NFL this week. 447 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 sacks. 2 sacks, actually. That's kind of interesting. 30 for 39. 30 for 39. And then, want to guess number 2?
How about Breeze?
Yep, Breeze.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
27 for 45, 356 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 sack.
So if you own people in fantasy from that game, looks like you made well.
Yeah. Alex Smith was actually number 8 on the list. He went 21 for 28, 251 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 sacks. But that Eagles defense, in the second quarter, that game became a defensive slugfest, if anything.
And Mike Glennon was nowhere because Mike Glennon does not deserve to be mentioned. But yeah, I knew this was exactly what would happen. I knew it. I knew this is exactly what I knew was going to happen. Tom Brady, I knew he was going to go off because it's just Tom Brady. Tom Brady doesn't have 2 bad games in a row. And yeah, the Patriots offense looked exactly like I expected them to look. So yeah.
Let's talk about our game of the week.
I think we have a cursed game of the week, really, at this point. It seems like, even though we've only picked 2 games of the week, it seems like they haven't been the greatest games.
Yeah, this one was actually probably the worst so far, because at least the first one
was competitive.
Yeah, it was like a defensive game, but
yeah.
It was competitive nonetheless. Packers, Seahawks, but Cowboys, Broncos. Denver won 42-17. I'm sure there were a lot of Cowboys fans who weren't feeling very happy about that after that game.
I can only imagine.
I'm looking at some stats here from that game, and Hold on a second. Well,
Ezekiel, I just want to say something real quick. So, we mentioned Jordan Howard had a rough day yesterday. Or Sunday, excuse me. Talk about Zeke Elliott. Zeke Elliott, two 9 carries. Both of them got 9 carries. And actually, Zeke came up with 1 more yard. So Jordan Howard was 9 for 7 yards. And Zeke Elliott was 9 for 8 yards, which I thought was kind of interesting. So the 2 highest rushers from last year combined for 15 yards and 18 rushes on Sunday. Just something to think about.
And I would like to note here before we move along to other things is the pass targets. It seems that it shows that both of these teams don't really have gunslinger quarterbacks just yet because, like, I would say 85% of each quarterback's passing was to the short left, short mid, or short right. There were only 5 deep attempts for the Denver Broncos, and actually none of them were caught. Trevor Siemian didn't make any of them. And then for the Cowboys, there were only 3 of them. Well, there were only 4 of them. 2 of them did make it, and they were decent plays, but I just felt that was interesting when I was looking at these stats. Is the short pass becoming more popular all of a sudden in the NFL? I mean,
it's
or even just a screen pass. I mean,
yeah, it's easier just to dump it off 4 or 5 yards and see what your receiver can do with it.
It's always kind of interesting, really fast, how college football will eventually, because that was actually where a lot of that did start at some point.
Yeah.
I should rephrase that. When these guys go from college to the NFL, in many cases, they will kind of
wean them into it.
Yeah.
Wean them into a full system.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Trevor Siemian. He's been really impressive. I don't know about you. He has really impressed me in these 2 games.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good, actually. Not as good as I would expect the Broncos to have been this season.
Yeah, I always thought Trevor Siemian was, in the lower half of the quarterbacks. And I'm not saying he suddenly isn't. But if he can keep up this production, I might have to apologize to Broncos fans, actually, because if they can move the ball like they have in the first 2 games, that team is going to be near unstoppable.
And we have some news right now here. Commissioner Roger Goodell's NFL extension is reportedly getting papered right now. So we are writing down the terms of Roger Goodell's new deal to be for NFL commissioner. And Nathan over here is shaking his head and sighing.
I call him Roger Goddell because I feel like sometimes he wants to interfere in everything. But that is neither here nor there. So I guess Jerry Jones... I guess they went against Jerry Jones because he was actually seemed to be in the way of the extension happening, which I think is kind of interesting. Probably over the whole Zeke thing.
I would expect Kraft also to... Kraft's probably not liking him very much to the New England owner.
I think Kraft just stayed silent at this point. I think there's been so much between them, they just didn't say anything.
They're not on speaking terms
yeah,
anymore.
Basically.
So, Deshaun Watson, what'd you think of?
Oh, yes, I talked about Deshaun Watson in my first game, or last week, talking about how he came in for Tom Savage like I expected. And he wasn't that impressive, actually. If we could just look over this real quick. He just, I don't know. I'm kind of glad, I'm still glad we took Trubisky. I think Watson will be a fine quarterback, but I just don't know where he can lead you this year, at least.
And I'll be completely honest with you, I didn't watch that game. I didn't ever really glance over to that.
I had it on the background, and I made sure to watch every Houston drive. Right. Which was the ones that mattered to me.
And then we have Dwayne Brown, who's still out till week 8, isn't he? For
yes,
the Texans.
He will.
But not because of injury.
Yeah, not because of injury. If you might remember, we mentioned him in our first podcast about contract holdouts, and he is taking it to the extreme. At this rate, he said he will not be back until the Texans bye week. Now, I have a question for you, Dustin. If you're a general manager and you have a player doing this, missing games and stuff because they're not happy about being paid millions of dollars, what would your thought be?
5-1. he would have been on the franchise tag, of course. He would have, of course, been on the franchise tag. And, I'll be honest, if he's not going to take my franchise tag, then I'm not even going to offer it to him next year. I'm just going to dump it. He's a good offensive tackle and everything, but I can't stand that. I'm not gonna stand for that, because there's always going to be a cheaper offensive tackle out there who may be just as good as Dwayne Brown. Next man up mentality. Heck, maybe they're second. You know what would be interesting? If Dwayne Brown were to get benched at some point in the season. If the second string really starts getting that impressive.
That's what I was about to say. Maybe he gets outplayed and then he comes back and suddenly he doesn't have a starting job anymore.
And he doesn't have a job, period, probably. Because if I'm another NFL general manager, I'm not 100% sure if I'm willing to take him on if he's going to be that way about the money,
Yeah, that's why I posed that question to you. And this is something I'd like to introduce to this show. This is going to be probably a weekly thing, and I'm going to call it the Disappearing Act, or the Alshon Jeffrey Invitational, as I like to call it as a Bears fan. But what the Disappearing Act is, it's your big players just not showing up in the first whatever time, whether it be a certain game, whether it be the whole season, it just depends. And well, I guess the inaugural member of the Disappearing Act is Andy Dalton. I hate to keep ripping up Andy Dalton. Last week I ripped him up pretty good last week when I talked about AJ McCarron, but it's just he's costing the Bengals games straight up.
I haven't seen way too much of him personally, but I can say that he's definitely one of the lower ranked quarterbacks at this point in the league this season. I believe he is.
He is. So I have some rankings here to back up my thoughts this week. And here we are. So out of every quarterback that is eligible for rankings on ProFootballReference.com, he is 33rd in quarterback rating, which is a formula to determine how good your quarterback has been weekly, yearly, whatever. He ranks 32nd in completion percentage with a 54%. And he ranks 24th in yards per game. So he also leads the league in interceptions, tied with Carson Palmer and Deshaun Kaiser. So for the Bengals to be good, he needs to step up and out of the shadows.
At least Carson Palmer has the fourth quarter comeback.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, actually, not fourth quarter comeback, the overtime comeback, if anything, at this point, officially. And that's out of, I believe, 41 quarterbacks who qualify at this point, because a few have thrown just some little podunk passes here and there.
Yeah. And real quick, I'd like to give my two honorable mentions, who I was thinking of doing, but they are injured. So I'm gonna give them a pass this week. If they don't do good, in week 3, expect some changes. Expect them to be one of them, and they are Odell Beckham Jr. and Jimmy Graham. Okay, Odell Beckham Jr., he missed week 1, so he'll get a pass this week. He was unimpressive in week 2, but he'll get a pass. And Jimmy Graham has 4 catches for 9 yards through 2 weeks. And he is questionable for week 3. So if he plays week 3 and is as unimpressive, expect some talk about him.
Yes. Good stuff. Anyway, that sounded really awkward. Nonetheless, it's time for the injuries. So we have linebacker Reuben Foster for the 49ers, who did not participate in practice Tuesday. He's dealing with an ankle injury sustained during their season opening loss against the Panthers still. T.J. Watt, the brother of J.J. Watt, plays on the Steelers now. He was actually quite a sensation.
He did pretty good, actually.
Yeah, in week 1.
Yeah. And then Greg Olsen broke his foot on Sunday, and he came out straight up and told the media he broke his foot, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. He had the Jones fracture, according to the head athletic trainer. I've never heard the Jones fracture, but, it is what it is, I suppose. Anyway, he is now on injury reserve.
Think of how many big players have gone on injured reserve this year. Is there an injury epidemic in the NFL? Maybe that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, or something to talk about later.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts, of course, ruled out Andrew Luck for their tilt with Cleveland on Sunday. That could be an interesting game. The Colts and the Browns. Another one of those marquee quarterback matchups. Another one starring Scott Tolzien along with Deshaun Kaiser.
Jacoby Brissett?
Oh, yeah, Jacoby Brissett, yeah.
Oh, well, Jacoby Brissett wasn't that hot either.
They've switched to They've switched the quarterback so much that, I can't.
Can't even remember anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott will play Monday against the Cardinals. He did suffer an ankle injury in Sunday's loss to the Denver Broncos. We'll see if that ends up being an excuse later in the season as to why they couldn't win that game. But
ooh, shots fired! Wow.
Well, I mean, isn't it seemingly happening that we just come up with more and more excuses nowadays
for players not playing up to their standards?
Yeah.
I see it. I completely agree.
Yeah. Cleveland has placed wide receiver Corey Coleman on injured reserve because of a broken hand he suffered in the loss to the Ravens.
And to those who have a keen memory, you might remember Corey Coleman broke his hand in week 2 last year. So
I did not know that.
Yes, he did. Last year he broke his hand in week 2. So we'll see about that one. We'll see if this is going to become a trend. I hope not, because I like Corey Coleman, but we just got to see.
That sounds about right, though. And didn't he eventually end up going on IR too?
He did. He went on IR for a broken hand.
And now he's on IR for a broken hand again in the same exact week.
And one more. Vic Beasley from Sunday Night Football last week between the Packers and the Falcons. He suffered a hamstring injury. And it's he suffered a hamstring tear, and he will miss at least a month. So the sack leader is down. So there's yet another big player hurt. So maybe injury epidemic. I don't know. Doesn't it feel like there's a lot more big injuries this year, or is that just me?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Probably because so many of my players have gotten hurt.
And I think as we continue on, we know more and more about these injuries. Teams in the past some of them have been kept more secretive.
Which is now
NFL rules along with just how teams have started operating over the last few years in a 24-hour news cycle, ironically. 24-hour sports cycle in this case, going on there. Nick Perry, the Packers linebacker, is scheduled to undergo surgery on his hand, a finger, more specifically, and is, quote, almost certainly out this week. Rob Gronkowski was present for the start of practice for a second consecutive day. Gronk was officially a DNP on Wednesday, did not practice, so we'll see if he does more today.
Groin, right?
Yes.
He's had problems with that in the past. So we will keep track of that.
Maybe it's not injury epidemic as much as...
Same people getting hurt?
Well, re-aggravating.
Maybe.
Of said injuries.
That seems like a big injury to re-aggravate, though.
True. Rex Burkhead remained out for the Patriots. Ribs, he still do not practice. The Ravens announced that running back Jeremy Langford was placed on injured reserve.
I never thought I'd hear about Jeremy Langford again. I hoped I would, but...
He's the former Bears running back last season.
Who got cut in the preseason. Just last year, he was going into just last year as the starting running back, and then he got hurt, and Jordan Howard stepped up. Had no place for him.
And really fast here, Justin Houston missed practice Thursday due to the flu. Hope he gets better. Stephon Tuitt told reporters he'll return to practice Thursday after missing the Steelers' Week 2 win with a biceps injury. He was the one who got the contract extension before Week 1 and then proceeded to get injured. And Redskins tight end Jordan Reed is back at practice after sitting out Wednesday. And now it's time to talk about Week 3 in the NFL.
And we're not even gonna start with a game. We're gonna start with a concept.
Yes. So the London games. Oh yes, those games that start at 8:30 in the morning, and whether you're even up for them or not is completely unknown.
Seems like most of the time with London games, I get up around that time and I go, wait, there's a game on right now? And then I have to think about what time it is.
And I'm sure you have to think about what channel it's on, because you're on Fox or CBS and you can't get it on Red Zone at that time in the morning. He's an avid Red Zone watcher.
Not sponsored, though. Red Zone, if you do want to sponsor us, just drop an email to me.
Yeah. Lombardi at gmail.com. There we go. So, what do you think about London? I mean...
I think... I'll be straight up with that. I think London is a stupid concept because it seems kind of pointless. Why would you try to go to London if you don't plan on putting a team there? And you may say, oh, maybe the NFL is planning on putting a team there. Well, if you don't, two comments I have about that. One, there was actually a London NFL. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
NFL Europe.
NFL Europe, thank you. And it failed miserably. In the few seasons it was around, it failed miserably. The football, the once a year football games, or a couple times a year football games that come to London, they usually get decent attendance, but that's about it.
At this point, it's actually like 3 or 4 times a year. And I do remember over the off season there were discussions about putting those as noon games instead of putting them at 8:30, but I guess they've gone back to that strategy.
And then the second thing I had to say about that is, how would that work if we were to put a team in London? How would that work out next, like weekly schedule wise? Like, because how we do it now is so Baltimore and Jacksonville are going to have their byes after this week.
Well, they at least get the option of having their byes if they want it now.
Yeah. So you just have everyone who faces London have their bye after that week. It seems kind of pointless. But what about division games?
Yeah, you can't do that for division games because you can't have 2 byes.
Yeah, you can't give a team 2 byes.
Of course, there's always talk of expanding the NFL season from time to time, so you never know if they go to London. That may become something to talk about there. And then that game will be the Ravens at the Jaguars. I believe it's on CBS.
Expect the Ravens to win that one. There you go.
Yeah. So then let's talk our other Week 3 games. We'll start off with my game, the Chiefs and the Chargers. This will be a 4:25 game. I apologize. The first weekend of the CBS doubleheader, actually. The last 2 weeks it's just been Fox and Joe Buck and Troy Aikman having America's Game of the Week.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alex Smith. I kind of highlighted some things here from the Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers matchup here. Quarterback Alex Smith ranks second right now in the NFL with a 134.1 passer rating. Kareem Hunt leads the NFL right now with 355 scrimmage yards, 177.5 per game. Scrimmage yards are both rushing
and receiving combined.
Yes. He is the first player in NFL history with 3+ rushing touchdowns and 2+ receiving touchdowns in his first 2 career games.
That stat seems kind of cherry-picked, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And he just reminds me so much of Tyreek Hill.
Too many speed guys?
Yeah, I don't know who the running backs coach in Kansas City is, but whoever it is, they're obviously doing a great job. I'm not sure if Brad Childress is still the running game coordinator or if he moved on to assistant head coach. I do think he did, but man, that's just crazy. Tyreek Hill, of course, that's the next guy I end up talking about. Only NFL player with 175+ receiving yards and a touchdown catch this season. He had the 95-yard punt return touchdown in the last meeting with the Chargers last season. Linebacker Justin Houston, 7 sacks in the past 6 games. We'll see if he plays. Of course, he has the flu that normally doesn't take out NFL players from the game, but we've seen it happen before, so I wouldn't be surprised. And of course, defensive end Chris Jones, we've talked about him, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, first career interception last week. He is the first player with 3+ sacks, 2+ forced fumbles, and an interception in a single game since 2007. You want to guess who it was then?
Who?
James Harrison.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yes. And then we'll go to the Chargers side really fast. Quarterback Phillip Rivers, 52 career games with 300+ pass yards, third most among active players. Yeah, of course, he is the franchise leader in San Diego. Well, in San Diego/LA.
Oh, yeah. I think I've called the Chargers San Diego a couple weeks ago, but I don't remember.
For pass yards and pass touchdowns through 18. And I'm sorry to go off topic here, but something that now that we're thinking San Diego, LA, there is actually a taco place in San Diego that is selling free tacos for every Chargers loss. So if you go visit San Diego and you're there after a Chargers game, don't forget to go to that taco place and score some free tacos.
Those tacos have a little bit of extra salt on them.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Keenan Allen led his team with 9 catches and 100 receiving yards last week. He has 334 receiving yards, 83.5 per game in the past 4 meetings. Tight end Antonio Gates had a touchdown catch last week. This has officially put him over the record for most career receiving touchdowns in NFL history among tight ends. He beat Tony Gonzalez, former Chiefs player, for that record. He now is on Sunday, Fox NFL kickoff on Sunday mornings.
That's a fall from grace right there.
Well, he was on the NFL today previously,
okay.
but
Fair point.
he just wanted to be closer to his family.
Oh, okay. Now you make me feel bad.
So now it's time to talk the Steelers and Bears game. 1 o'clock Eastern. Well, I mean, 12 o'clock noon here, but yeah.
This is a game where you might hear about it being up here bloodbath, if I'm to be honest with you. I'm expecting nothing less than a bloodbath at this point. With that Steelers high-powered offense, there's not much less I can expect. And also with the fact that the Bears just can't move the ball to save their lives right now, I don't have very high expectations for this game. Basically, what I'm hoping for is what am I hoping for? I have to ask myself this question. That's how bleak this is. I'm hoping the defense can stay stout and shut down Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown. Though that's going to be, I know.
Yeah,
right?
I'm giving him that look. That's a big old.
Yeah, I know. They can at least hold them to under 50 points. How about that? Under 50 points. But it's going to be hard when Prince Amukamara keeps missing games. He may get a free paycheck at that point and not play a single game. I'm letting some frustration out here.
Any more frustration while we're...
Oh, there's plenty. But
anybody on that sheet who you just look at their name and you go...
Well, Mike Glennon isn't in my biggest graces right now, but I'd rather have Trubisky in there. I said it. But John Fox is stubborn, and he said that Glennon is his quarterback, so we'll see.
While we're on this subject, would you start Trubisky this week if you were John Fox? This week?
I would. Why not? Not necessarily throw him into the fire. I think he can handle his own. Because Trubisky can at least run this offense we run right now. It's like freaking a middle school offense. It's the best way I can put it.
Though at the same time, I see why you don't put him in, because if you put Trubisky in this week, and that's Steelers defense,
and they wreck him. That's a confidence,
or he gets injured.
Oh my gosh! Oh, we don't use that I word.
Does that change your perspective on whether you would start this week?
That's why I paused for a second. That's the only thing. I don't want anything to happen to rattle his confidence, because that's what matters. What matters is him in the long haul. I'd rather start him in the long haul than have him come in for a game and then shatter his confidence.
I can see that. And then we'll talk about Sunday Night Football. Oakland Raiders at Washington Redskins.
Sunday Night Football, another really good game.
Yeah.
That I like. Shout out to my uncle again. He's a Raiders fan. Every time I talk about the Raiders, expect a shout out to my uncle.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and throw the Raiders stat out here. Quarterback Derek Carr will make his 50th career start. He needs 4 touchdowns to become the 5th quarterback in NFL history with 90 touchdown passes in the first 50 games. Do you think he can do that? Do you think he can make 4 touchdown passes to tie that, to become the 5th quarterback in NFL history?
4 is normally a lot, period. But that Washington defense, while not being one among the best, is not necessarily pushovers either. So I'm not sure about that. That's a good point.
I had Amari Cooper on a weekly fantasy team last week. He has 135 plus receiving yards in each of his past 2 on the road versus NFC teams. Marshawn Lynch is on that team now. Crabtree's on that team. Crabtree, he's okay. I'm just not really sure about Crabtree right now.
I like Crabtree a lot. I think he's underrated. I
still like Crabtree, but I'm starting to see some of those stats where they're not impressing me as much as Amari Cooper's are.
I like Marshawn just for his dancing skills. That's something to look into. If you haven't seen that, look up Marshawn Lynch sideline.
And now that those touchdown celebration rules are a little bit more relaxed, we'll see how he takes that. Tight end, and I have one little thing about the Redskins really fast. Tight end Jordan Reed, since 2015, leads the NFC tight ends with 17 touchdown catches. Do you think? Of course, he had the slight injury, but he is at practice now. But do you think the Washington Redskins have any chance of overcoming the Oakland Raiders?
Not really. To be honest with you. Maybe if Kirk Cousins lights it up. That's the only way I can see it. This is if they win this game, it's going to be a shootout.
Brutal honesty on the show here today.
Yep.
And then our game of the week this week.
Hey, finally, a game of the week that isn't Joe Buck's game of the week.
Yeah, and a game of the week that isn't the Cowboys or the Packers.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, Seattle Seahawks at Tennessee Titans.
2 teams I like a lot.
Yeah, and because it's not Joe Buck's game of the week, I should say this is Kevin Burkhardt and Charles Davis's game. You know, I've seen so much of those two in the last 2 weeks because they had my game, and then they had the Bears game week 1 that got distributed out to here. What do you think about this game? I mean, this could end up being a decently good game. Well, a really good game, actually.
Well, what worries me actually is Seattle's offense. Seattle's offense has been stuck in quicksand so far this year. Shout out to Jimmy Graham, those previously mentioned 4 catches for 9 yards. So you can tell how well the passing offense is doing right now. Not well. The only really decent part of the offense so far this year has been Chris Carson. Their 5th round pick, I believe. 5th or 6th round pick.
Yeah, I think you're in that ball game.
Yeah, somewhere later round pick. That's what you need to know. Who, you know, has actually been decent recently. At the running back position, you know, with Thomas Rawls and CJ Prosise, and then Eddie Lacy, Eddie Lacy's to the point where he's a healthy scratch, which is just sad to me.
Yeah, if you have that good a running back depth where you're having to do that's just sad for those players, and you're not getting able to see those players perform on the field. The Chiefs are a big example of that one.
Well, I'm not even sure if it's like a depth thing. I think it's just Eddie Lacy's sort of incompetent, to be honest with you. Am I just being too harsh today?
Yeah, you're against the Packers, so I'm not sure if you're.
Oh, there is a little bit there. Okay,
yeah,
fair point.
Yeah. Anyway, Richard Sherman, that Seattle defense, he leads the NFL with 26 interceptions since 2012. That's just something to throw out there at you.
See the best corner in the game though. Still, got you thinking. Caught you off guard.
The NFL has actually gotten a lot of good cornerbacks in the last couple of years.
He's at least got to be still top 5.
Yeah, a couple of years ago I would have put Richard Sherman as my top, but I'm not so sure now. But he is at least in that top 5, absolutely. And then, like Nathan was saying, you have that Titans defense: Marcus Mariota, DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, Eric Decker, Rashard Matthews, Delaney Walker. I mean,
that's a high-powered offense.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good offense. Both of these teams are 1-1, and you can catch this game at 3:05. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Fox around here. It probably will be. I could see it because this is a game that I could see getting distributed to a lot of the country.
And Tennessee's coming off a big win over Jacksonville.
A
dominant win over Jacksonville who had 10 garbage time points. So really, they won 37-6.
37-16.
Yeah, but really, it was.
But yeah.
There you go. That's what I meant.
It was basically 37-6.
Yeah. And so Tennessee's the favorite in that division for me right now.
And it's time to wrap up today's show. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us for the last however long this has been, probably about 30, 45 minutes even by now.
And these are our 5 things.
Yes, the 5 things segment. So I'll start off with Tamba Hawley. Just a quick shout out to him. He is half a sack away from 90 sacks in the NFL, which is, of course, a statistical milestone considered by the NFL.
Yeah, and, well, my first thing's a tad of a doozy. If you didn't hear what Ben McAdoo said, Ben McAdoo went hard on Eli Manning earlier.
After the Monday night game.
The Monday night game, because Eli, if I remember right, there was a play clock running out, escaping me right now.
I'm sure there was a lot of those.
But
anyway, it was probably a very terrible play for Eli.
And Ben McAdoo, the head coach, straight up came out after the game and said Eli made that mistake. And I was shocked by his brutal honesty, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm Boomer Esiason. I was listening to his show Tuesday morning. I just happened to find some clips of it on Clip It, which is an app that I have for sports highlights and stuff. Not a sponsorship there, but it is a good app.
If you do want to sponsor us, Clip It, go ahead.
Yes. Anyway, he was going off on that Giants team, and of course he's a Giants fan. He played. I'm not sure if he played for them, but he might have in sometime in his career. But man, they really sucked that game up. Anyway, now it's time for my second one, and this is a shout out also to Eagles defensive end Chris Long. He is using his first 6 game checks to fund 7-year scholarships to a prep school in Charlottesville, North Carolina, his hometown. You may have heard Charlottesville in the news probably the end of July, beginning of August, when they had all the racial
tensions.
The severe racial tensions. The person got mowed down in a car. So he's doing good for his hometown.
It's always good to see people coming back and they remember where they're from.
And it's good to do it after the tragedy. Because, I mean, yeah, you can donate all you want for Irma or Jose or Maria or all these other hurricanes right now as they're directly affecting them, but they need the money later to get back on their feet after all the cleanup is done. But anyway, now I'm kind of just going off on my own little tangent there. We'll bring it back to Nathan's second closer.
Which is a bit more fun, if I do say. Charles Tillman, probably one of the greatest cornerbacks the Bears ever had, one of my favorite players of all time, is training to be an FBI agent, which is one of the greatest headlines I have ever read in my entire life. When I saw that, there was a smile on my face instantly because I could just see him being that type of guy. Maybe someone's carrying something and he just peanut punches it out of their hands. If you don't know Peanut Punch, his nickname's Peanut, and he would do the peanut punch, which is forcing a fumble.
Yeah, and we have a co-closer this week. We've decided to kind of just do one where we both kind of collaborate on it. And
our closer this week is looking at an accomplishment and if we think it's going to happen or not.
And Carson Palmer is this week's candidate. He is 131 yards away from 45,000 yards.
That's a lot of yards.
I feel like I'm the guy on Jeopardy right now who says, this player, Carson, with $45,000 in his 2-day winnings or whatever.
Brilliant. I love it.
But now I'm going off topic once again here. But do you think 131 yards is attainable for him this week?
Well, something to throw in is he's against the Cowboys offense, so I would have said yes, and now I say 100% it's going to happen. Hold me to that.
Yeah, but Carson Palmer, I mean, I think he'll do it, but he may actually end up being a lot closer to that than what we think because he's had some games.
Rough games, yeah.
Yeah, so that will be one of the many interesting storylines we'll watch as we go into Week 3, and we come out of Week 3 next Wednesday or Thursday. We'll have the Week 4 review, the Week 3 review
and Week 4 preview,
and that is today's episode of
All for the Lombardi. God bless football, God bless America,
and God bless you.
Go Bears!